Hey, I heard that seafood, for the first time ever, at least in recent history, is cheaper than beef.
Really?
Yeah. And when I went to the store today to look at the beef, I think we'll be eating hamburger for a while.
Oh, it's still going up? You know, we had that roast beef tonight. It was a little salty. I'm kind of thirsty right now.
Wash it down with a little whiskey.
Yeah. Welcome to the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast. We are the only local, politically conservative, liberty-minded live program in Kootenai County where we expose political power players, politicians, and influencers. We're your hosts, Dan and Dawna Wilson. I'm here to screen your questions and comments. We will not be taking your calls throughout the program tonight, but feel free to engage in that comment section with each other, and I'll be scanning through those too. Throughout the program, you can submit those questions and comments right into the comment section on whichever platform you're joining us. And if you're watching live, be sure to share this live stream to your page or profile. And if you're listening back on our podcast, we encourage you to join us live every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. A reminder that opinions expressed are ours only and not necessarily that of any of our advertisers, sponsors, or affiliates. And because we're going through some heated topics tonight, we want to especially remind you that these are our opinions. And now here's your host, Dan Wilson.
Hola! To all my friends south of Idaho and to my grandson, Brian. Hola, brother. Thank you so much for joining us on episode 22, the Liberty Without Compromise broadcast. Corruption defenders disguising loyalty as a virtue while propping up the rotten. It is a problem, and we're going to spend the majority of tonight discussing a recent topic that came up, the KCRCC, a local private citizen running for office, and those that defend said person. Now, Liberty Without Compromise is exactly what we say. We practice the liberty that our founders gave to us. Ultimately, God gave them to us. And this broadcast is all about liberty. And many of you know this, some of you don't. But this is a continuation of my failed sheriff race last year in 2024 when I unsuccessfully ran against Sheriff Robert Bob Morris. But the message still stays the same. 6-8 months later after the election, the message has not changed one bit. Liberty is just that. And we practice it without compromise. And we talk about things that make many people upset. One of the things that I find fascinating and amusing is during the race, how many people were completely behind me because I'm this conservative liberty guy. Equal protection under the law for all. And then the election comes and goes, and we continue this broadcast. And I continue to act upon the very same principles as I was during the campaign. And it's starting to make some of you upset. Mm-hmm. How dare conservative Dan Wilson talk to people that aren't conservative themselves? How dare you have conversations with people that are on the opposite sides of the table, or maybe some people that some of you consider to be Marxist? How could Dan Wilson be supporting people's rights? You're a conservative. And friends, let me tell you, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. Some of you are still infants when it comes to your understanding of the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, liberty. You just haven't fully captured what it really means to live in this United States of America. Just because I stand up for somebody's constitutional rights does not necessarily mean that I support something morally. And you have to grasp when you are talking about conservatism. You got to go back and read what the founders, those that framed our Constitution, had to say about liberty, about life and property. John Locke, go back to Plato. Because if you don't have that foundation, if you don't understand the arguments as to why this country has the form of government that ultimately prevailed, if you haven't read the Federalist or the Anti-Federalist to see their opposing views, then all you are is carrying on the same rhetoric that you hear from all the talking heads, the Fox News, the political right. And yes, I read a lot of that. I listen to a lot of that, but I understand how to filter it through ultimately, which is truth. And I never, ever mistake my personal relationship with Jesus Christ, who is my Savior and my Lord, with being an American. They're both true, but I don't espouse my government to be my God. And I clearly understand culturally where we are right now. I understand the failings of the church for the past several years, decades, if not over 100 years, and what they have done to the modern man and woman and families in church and how ineffective. This week, we did a kind of a quick little check. We investigated slightly. We used AI and we queried and said, how many Christian churches are in Kootenai County?
That's right.
And how many were there?
I think it was 79.
79, 89, somewhere in there. Out of 100 and a population of about 175, 180,000, 100,000 go to church?
I think it was, 120,000 claimed to be congregants at those 79-ish Christian churches in Kootenai County.
Yeah.
Which
so
is
overwhelmingly, we assume that those that are going to church, since everybody gets clumped into the same thing, that they're learning from the same Bible, that they're learning the same truth. So then why are we fighting so hard this cultural battle right here in our own very house? That is the county. We have churches on every corner. So why does the culture look so different from what people are saying on the right versus the left versus what actually is happening? And it's confusing. I understand that. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a very difficult subject. We're going to be talking about the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee and their endorsement of a candidate. And this candidate who I spotlighted this past week as I was questioning the case here at CC. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what he was involved in. And we're also going to talk about those that came to his aid and how that ties into morality right now. Those of you that are going to church, those of you that are on the local Facebook chat groups, I'm not on them, but I hear the reports and how righteous you all say you are. And yet how many of you are willing to become unrighteous when it's politically convenient? And we're going to talk about this and much more. But in the meantime, it's back to you.
A couple
babe.
of fun things. I do, for those of you who weren't with us at the top of the hour, I want to remind you to share this feed to your own page or profile so that more of us can engage in this conversation. And then also, we've been talking about this for a while, but we are doing a giveaway on our website of this premium snapback embroidered Liberty Without Compromise trucker hat. This one's looking a little, worn in because it's mine and I've been wearing it. You will get a brand new one. You can enter that giveaway over on our website at libertywithoutcompromise.com. And then another delicious and easy way that you can help support the program is to get your own order of Midday Squares.
Where's our
This is
order?
a functional chocolate bar. Well, I put in that order today. We had to
Wait,
replenish
today?
our
Today?
Yeah, I know. I should have done it a while ago. We are out of our snacks right now. Our favorite is the chocolate chip cookie dough, and they've got 5 or 6 different delicious flavors. And in the comment section here, you're going to see a link that's going to lead you to a 15% off discount when you order your Midday Squares online. Choose your favorite flavor. Let us know what it is. Why? I mean, and then why? This isn't just a candy bar, and it's far from your typical protein bar. You are getting a good amount of protein in here, and with real sugar but low sugar. So it's a functional snack that's going to help curb those cravings and keep you on more of a healthy track.
We were on a little bit of that track today because I had the munchies.
Uh-oh.
and I really was craving that.
And we didn't have that.
So I may have had a little bit of some candy trail mix.
Oh yeah, the trail mix.
Well, it had some kind of a toffee coating on it.
Yeah, it was the sweet and spicy. Yeah.
Now, when do you think we're going to give this hat away? Because I keep getting bombarded with the questions. When are you going to give the hat away? When is it going to happen?
You know what? Now you just caught me off guard.
It's just arbitrary. We're just going to do it into.
I go by how I feel.
Yes, you do.
Well, set a deadline. Set a deadline for me.
So the way you feel, I love. Okay, let's say.
Here we go. This might be your last chance to enter.
Well, I mean, are we going to set it out long, or are we going to send it out short?
Well, we'll set it out short. Maybe we'll do another giveaway.
I'd say by July 4th.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we going to do it
a freedom thing?
July 4th. So I'm going to look quickly at my calendar. July 4th. So we'll announce it on July 2nd, which is 2 days before the celebration of our independence.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Write it down so I don't forget.
You're not going to forget. I'll remind you. And those of you out there that keep sending the messages, you can finally get off my back.
Oh, about the hat. Yeah. I
see Gordon's back. Gordon, I want you to block Gordon. I've had enough of Gordon.
All right, we've had enough of
Gordon. You have worn your welcome out. Goodbye.
Okay, and while Gordon is in the spotlight now, you're seeing his comments up on the screen, but he's going to have a bit of a timeout. This is a great time to remind you that we do want you to engage with us in that comment section, and you can talk back and forth with each other as the program unfolds, and you're only going to get put in a timeout if you're flooding the comment section unnecessarily.
Gordon, you're acting like a fool. So yeah, we don't have time for you. This past week, a lot has occurred. We had a local election took place just yesterday, right here in Coeur County, mostly for school levies and then some elected positions, water boards, road districts, library board. And for those of you that have followed us for a while, you know that I am not currently a fan of the Coeur County Republican Central Committee, especially their executive committee and how they run their rating and vetting, which in my opinion is they choose who they want to represent them, not the county. And because they're the Central Committee and they are more or less the cabal, they put their stamp and their money, massive amounts of money, behind their candidates, and they put out their little mailer that goes out to every resident in Coeur County or voter, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. And that is in a Republican county, predominant Republican county, where most voters don't have time or they are lazy and don't do their own research. They just want an easy way out. If it has an R behind its name, bingo, we're gonna vote for that person. And I've taken the boots to the KCRCC and Chair Brent Reagan, who is also the chair of the Idaho Freedom Foundation. Brent and I do not see eye to eye on many, many things. There are some things that I do see eye to eye.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to him speak, and I'm willing to say on areas where, that's very reasonable. And in what he's saying, I don't know that a lot of times what he's saying is what he's practicing. But I think he's saying,
you and I
agree.
Listened to Idaho Speaks.
Yes.
Ed Bajarana before he became infamous, when he had Brent on 2 years ago talking about groypers.
Right.
And, I agreed with a lot of what Brent had to say, but Brent does not practice what he preaches. Neither does Ed. Right? It's all about conversations. No, it's not. Brent, it's all about you. And just to remind people what a jerk Brent is, and he is a jerk. He's not a gentleman. He's sure is not a scholar. Well, he's an intellectual, but I don't know if that means he's a scholar. Brent was so arrogant that he couldn't be bothered really to acknowledge me when I went to introduce myself at a function after I ran. This is after he and his executive committee sent a messenger to me, a fellow acquaintance, to say, don't run for sheriff. We don't need to replace Bob. Move to Shoshone County and run for a sheriff over there.
Well, and what this proves is the people that are heading up this local GOP won't even take the time to sit down to understand who a candidate is, what they're really about, their ideas, their platform. they really, in this case, with you entering for that sheriff's race, they just were about shutting you down before you could get started.
Yeah,
and
100%.
the evidence of that is there.
100%. They don't believe, the executive committee largely now does not truly believe in the best man, the best ideas. Let that, sort itself out. No, they don't. And we're not going to spend a lot more time talking about that, but I wanted to set up a little bit of a background. So yes, I do have a bone to pick with the KCRCC. I think what they're doing right now is wrong. They are not the gatekeepers of truth. They are not the defenders of all liberty like they think they are, because they do stupid things that predict that. And the founders wanted there to be hurdles and barriers. They did not want things to be effortless without argument. When you speed things up, people that are in an echo chamber are not looking at good perspective. They get tunnel vision. So I'm still involved on certain groups here in Kootenai County. And one of those groups that I mostly observe from time to time is a Telegram group called Stop Smart Cities Idaho. Now, if you're concerned about Agenda 2030 and smart cities, which really means 15-minute cities, they're rolling some of these out in China, other parts of the country, but eventually it's basically a virtual electronic fence where everything that you do in life will be 15 minutes or less from wherever you reside. They don't want people on private property. It's to be a surveillance state. They can, with their digital coins, take money away from you, let you spend or not spend. Bad things. So if you get a chance, go over to Stop Smart Cities Idaho. So this past week, the discussion on the Telegram feed there at Stop Smart Cities was one about election integrity right here in Kootenai County. And there is enough evidence throughout the entire country. Trump has been talking about this quite a bit. 2020 election was rigged. We know that elections are not secure. They're using the same equipment. And in Kootenai County, it's suspect as well. There's been quite a lot of conversation regarding that. But in this conversation, Jeff Tyler, who is a good dude, Jeff went out of his way. He's on the KCRCC board, was a former PC. But Jeff came out and he supported me, contrary to what the local KCRCC, who was supporting Bob Norris. Tyler came out and said, hey, I am endorsing Dan on my own accord, not as an official of the KCRCC or the Republican Party. And within 2 days, the state came after him. State Party Chair Dorothy Moon came after him and told him he couldn't do it. And others locally. In fact, Sheriff Robert Bob Norris went and publicly berated Jeff Tyler at the Kootenai County Fair this last August. Real class acts. So Jeff is a good man. I appreciate him. Jeff is the one that really kind of spearheaded originally this rating and vetting, and his intentions and reason were solid. Mm-hmm. It's just that it evolved and it's now something that it should not be. So he was talking. We're going to go to our slides. We're going to show a lot of slides tonight because you need to see a lot of visuals. But the first slide, we're going to show this exchange. And the reason I'm talking about this exchange is it sets up for the main story tonight.
Okay.
So Jeff is commenting. He says, well, when you do, and the slim conservative majority of the KCRCC loses next year, the establishment rhinos will take over and Idaho will become like Colorado. He goes on to say, if that happens, and they're talking about, the changes, I interject and I said, well, then when you do, and the slim conservative majority of KCRCC, that's what he's talking about. I say, if that happens, the fault rests squarely on the shoulders of the KCRCC leadership for driving conservatives away with their conduct and behavior and failing to clean their own house. The conversation continues. Jeff Tyler, all of you that love to bash Brent and the KCRCC are just going to end up with Idaho becoming like Colorado and Washington. How about help and support instead? And I ask him, Jeff, what does that mean, becoming like Colorado and Washington? Jeff responds, Colorado had the Rocky Mountain heist that turned it blue from red. Right now in Idaho is having the same thing, the Gem State heist, millions of out-of-state dollars here to take our conservative ID GOP and the county committees We are using all our energy in this fight. Too bad we raised less money this year at the KCRCC. I'm assuming it's the Lincoln Day dinner. Next May will determine if we can hold Idaho. Going on, I hit back. Jeff, bold statement. Does KCRCC have some magic way of determining who is and isn't a true conservative? And what is the real definition of a true conservative? I've seen the vetting process up front and in person and know it's a sham. Worried about turning into Colorado and Washington. And here's something I want you guys to pay attention to. We're talking about this heist to become like Colorado and Washington. Wasn't really defined yet, but I think most of us around here kind of get where he's going. I said, then why are county level elected officials taking campaign donations from out-of-state donors from Vegas, Southern California, and Arizona, from the marijuana, real estate, lobbyists, and construction industries? What interests do these industries have here in Kootenai County? Do these donors have the KCRCC vision of conservatism that you're concerned in preserving? And then why did a local state rep introduce legislation for medical marijuana this year? Jeff goes on. We kind of go back and forth. I take him to task, and he's not answering the questions that I'm posing to him. This is important. I said, you experienced that after you came out and supported me. We're talking about Brent and his leadership trying to control everything. I said, how were you treated? Were you not ordered to withdraw your support? That wasn't state level directed. Local helped out, put the pressure on. And why does the KCRCC have a vetting rating system instead of allowing people to go through the process like the national GOP? You don't see them choosing winners and losers prior to the primaries. Tyler responds, it was my fault as designer of rating and vetting. It is important that we, PC, stick together behind one person that the committee decides to recommend so as not to split a vote, even if it is a particular PC choice otherwise. Before rating and vetting 4 years ago, nearly all conservative lost races, and most had no conservative candidates. We have been very successful, but as a side effect, we draw lots of angst. Now it's not a perfect system, but much better than doing nothing like was happening before. That was when the establishment uniparty had everything. He disagrees with me that the uniparty ran everything here until we started the rating and vetting, and that they will one day, anyone they can use to get establishment control back by attacking the KCRCC. I respond, it's obvious you were avoiding my questions on out-of-state money. Jeff, now here's the crux of this. Jeff, I'd like to extend you an invitation to be a guest on this coming Wednesday's or future date Liberty Without Compromise broadcast. I'd love to discuss our differences regarding the KCRCC and current direction. And all I got was crickets. Now, Jeff's a smart guy, probably knows that, like Mark Stewart, if you get caught as being a member of the KCRCC, folks, think about how messed up this is. If you get caught talking to Dan Wilson as a Kootenai County Republican, you are punished. Whatever that looks like. Mark Stewart lost his position on a committee. Brent Reagan has complete control of that, even though he says he doesn't. Opinion again. Is that the way conservatives operate? So I sent this invitation out to Jeff because I do want dialogue. I understand that different perspectives. Mm-hmm. But Jeff did not respond, didn't take me up on the offer, and instead he continued to talk with others. There's a couple others that echoed back and said, hey, Jeff, why don't you go on Dan's show? And as of today, several days later, crickets. So I got to thinking. I don't always articulate very well the entirety of why I don't like the Republican Central Committee as it's currently structured. There's tons of hypocrisy in it, tons of those that rub elbows with out-of-state lobbyists that have questionable backgrounds, according to my book. But I really have a problem with this vetting system that they have. It should not be done by the Republican Central Committee. It's not done at a national level. It's done here at a local level. In fact, Brent Reagan was bragging and saying that we are the model that.
Yeah, he said, and that was in a podcast we were listening to with Ed Baharana, but one of the comments Brent Reagan made was that he was touting that his version of the KCRCC is the template for every other conservative county. That's his ideal. That's his plan.
And what they do, for those of you that haven't fully grasped this yet, in county races, you're lucky. A very, very expensive race is $100,000. Bob Norris has raised $100,000 as county sheriff. I was about half of that. Most races are under $10,000, I think. I think John Padula actually was pretty high as well in the primary. So what does that mean, Wilson? Well, why do you care? Because if you think about it, the maximum donation from a single donor or a business is $1,000 for the primary and the general election if you continue on. What that means is that the Republican Central Committee with their mailer, and we've seen the records that people have published, the amounts of money that the KCRC spends to put that red mailer out telling you who to vote for. Which
they did in this election of yesterday, and the voter turnout was abysmal.
Yeah, 20%.
So think about the amount of money.
20% of registered voters in Kootenai County, which is about 105,000, I think. So 20% actually showed up to vote. But the unfair advantage is, as a candidate, when you get put on that mailer and it's sent out to, I don't know, 100,000 plus homes
at no cost to you personally, your personal campaign.
Now I understand that they, will take all the amount of candidates and they'll write a campaign donation of however many $100, they divide it up. But I understand that what they're doing is, again, my personal belief. I think that most people that are reasonable would look at it the same. In a primary, if you are the popular kid, then the KCRCC is going to put their firepower behind the popular kid. Now, it's been said, well, there's 75 independent or 73 or 72, I forget, PCs. Okay, cool. Most of them do what the dear leader wants them to do. We've heard this a lot. I mean, it's not a mystery. So yeah, technically they make the vote, but they're compelled very heavily and persuaded, right? Because they're part of the cool kids team. Not all, though. We know that tide is changing. So one of my issues is when you are a vetted candidate and the Central Committee is saying, we put our stamp on this guy, he is recommended to you. What are you recommending? Are you recommending their skill set? Are you recommending their likability? Are you recommending their likelihood to win, to raise money? Are you recommending them based on their personal conduct, their personal behavior? I think that when you put your stamp on somebody and say, we have rated this guy as a Central Committee, remember, Central Committee, then it goes to state goes to national. Is that good policy? Well, we've had a couple candidates just recently, one that we talked about a couple weeks ago, where a recommended KCRCC candidate who was elected to school board was stopped on a traffic stop and admitted to using cocaine and alcohol. Mm-hmm. I understand you can't control people and their actions. Everybody's responsible for themselves. What kind of liability, though, does that place on the organization when you say this is somebody that we as a group have said, hey, has high moral values?
Yeah, I mean, that's supposed to be the idea. We personally have a bit of a look behind the curtain because you know what it's like to go through and fill out the questionnaire that was given to you. And then the second step in that process is to be interviewed by the committee, and you go through a series of questions. They don't tell you what the questions are going to be, and you're I mean, I almost felt a little bit like being on trial in a sense, but it was interesting to see which committee members were conducting that interview.
Well,
and
some of them don't have anything they have no background in law enforcement, for example.
Yeah, so
and how do they ask the right questions?
Yeah, how are they, when they talk about qualifications for positions, I mean, looking at the committee members, are they even qualified to be asking questions of somebody who's pursuing the highest elected office in the county? And I think that we got our answer when we sat through that part of the process.
So because of that correspondence back and forth with Jeff, I made the decision that I wanted to point out exactly why this is a dangerous practice and must stop now. Those of you who are on the KCRCC board, you need to get rid of this. Don't listen to what they're telling you. Good conservatives can and will continue to put themselves as, candidates as long as this ferocious committee, this stopgap, this gate, if you will, as long as they stop becoming the gatekeepers for who they think should or should not be that person. Now, I'm going to start by saying that we're going to go through several threads that I placed on X that lead to a video. Prior to that, we're going to go to the next page on slide. I think that is page number.
I do want to remind everybody, as promised, we will be watching the full body cam video that we're alluding to now. So that is coming up. Dan is prefacing it because it's very important to set the stage before we get to that point. So hang on tight. We are getting there. And a reminder that you can participate in the program by putting your questions and comments right into the comment section on whichever platform you're watching.
Now, I want to say that before we go any further, there's going to be language that is used, not only that we read, but also from people's mouths themselves. If you are sensitive to anything that's sexual in nature or foul language, my advice would be that you probably should sign off now or take those sensitive individuals and move them elsewhere. Prior to coming on at about 3:00 this afternoon, we received an email from the person that we're going to talk about, Angelo Brunson, who is a KCRCC recommended candidate for the sewer district. He sent this and he said, "Mr. Wilson, your recent post on X implied that I had committed a crime. This is untrue and a defamation against me, which has caused emotional and documented financial harm. I've been advised that I must give you the opportunity to retract your statements and apologize via the media, which these lies were distributed. Angelo Brunson." Now, I also want to point out right below that, Dawna, right below that slide. Last night, I received several phone calls that I did not answer from Angelo's son, who wanted to vouch for his dad. He tried FaceTiming me. He texted me, emailed me. So that was definitely something that they were trying to get my attention. And I feel very, very solid in not only what I have said to date and shown, but I am even more committed to telling the truth, despite who may get upset about this. And we're going to allow you guys to see the evidence yourself, the resources, and then you guys can come up to your own conclusion. I will say up front, just to be clear, at no time have I, nor am I, claiming that Angelo Brunson committed any crimes. To the best of my knowledge, the incident that we're talking about, he has never been charged with a crime. He's not been arrested. So everything that we're talking about is what was obtained legally through public records. Everything that I have as the source for what I have posted and said, whether it is written or whether it's a police report or a body camera video from police, is 100% obtained through private records, or public records rather. Private, that's funny. That's business.
Opposite.
If we go down to the next slide, number 7, there's a lot here to go through. I just want to show folks, once again, I received this copy that I was able to obtain legally. You guys can too. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You'll have to do your own homework. But I just want to show you that there was a police report that I read regarding Angelo Brunson that led me to then request body camera footage, which I submitted a request for and was able to receive. We are going to play that in its entirety coming up here very, very soon. We're going to first of all talk about, I think we're going to go straight to the video. I think what we should do is we should play the entire 13 minutes. We'll stop and probably talk about it a little bit. And then I'm going to show the tweets that I made that have made Angelo claim that I have defamed him and caused him all sorts of
good. I think that's
business harm.
A better order because we'll have context when you get to that point.
So we're going to go ahead and play that. And in between, I may stop things and comment, or you can as well. And we'll let her roll from there. So hopefully the volume's up loud enough. If it is not, let us know. We want everybody to hear this.
And the first, I'll let you explain where there's no audio here at the beginning. I'm going to add it to the stage.
So in most police body cams, when you start the video, there's a constant 30 seconds prior to when you hit start on your body cams that captures the movement, but it doesn't capture the audio. It captures the video portion. So a couple seconds here before it kicks off, and then you'll be able to hear firsthand. August of 2024, August 14th.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Good.
You know you got to use a turn signal when you turn in the turn lane. And then also when you turn on a niter, that turn signal has to be activated.
Oh, it wasn't on?
Nope, not when you merged over into that turn lane or when you turn on a niter. I realize you're in a turn lane itself once you've actually committed the first violation, but when you actually turn on a niter, it has to be activated as well.
Oh, okay.
All right. Do you have your license with you?
Yeah.
Can I get your insurance registration? Where are you coming from today?
Oh, I'm just coming from town, just Safeway.
Safeway? How about the massage parlor?
Yeah.
How long were you in there?
An hour?
Okay. You know how I know that?
No.
Because we're watching that place.
Oh.
So, I'm not too awful concerned about the traffic violation. What I'm trying to do is get more information about the massage parlor. Because I know what goes on at those places.
Yeah. I actually reported it.
Had you?
Yeah.
Then why are you going back in there?
Well, whoever's there now I just get in so much pain. I mean, I just literally, I go to the chiropractor 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
And I just get in so much pain that I've just got to get a massage. It's that bad. I mean, literally, my neck, my sacrum, my iliums, everything.
Okay.
But
You reported this?
I've reported it twice.
To whom?
The Coeur d'Alene police.
So if I was to run your information on my computer, I'll be able to see that you reported what?
I actually met with people at my restaurant. I have Angelo's restaurant.
Yeah, I know.
I met with them and I told them what was going on over there because I went over there.
What's going on there?
What's going on over there, where I just went there, that's not going on.
Oh, it is.
Well,
That's
what's
why
not
we're
going
sitting
on
on
with
it.
me.
Okay.
But they actually ask you, can I massage this?
Massage what?
That.
Penis? So to
They even
manipulate
try to
you,
touch it
sexual
sometimes,
contact, whatever you may
Yeah.
want to call it? Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not just sitting on these places because we pick them out of our hat. It's because we know things are going on there. And
Yeah.
how this works is because I have to type up a report on every one of these, and I'll list you in the report either as a witness or a suspect. And we're doing that with everybody so we can have a track record of what's going on there and what people are telling us. I know, because you're not the first person who stopped out of there today, that things are being offered on every single one of these. So if it's not oral, saying, do you want this? There's hand gestures.
Yeah.
And I know that happened with yours because they're not just going to skip
No,
one
they-
person.
They didn't. I've been there, so they have some different people in there. And,
Now?
And yeah,
Since when?
probably I don't know, 3 weeks ago or a month.
Okay.
That place up there, I don't go there anymore. They do it to me.
Which place up where?
On 95. They did it 3 times. They were 3 times they tried to touch me and ask me and money and everything. Same place at my restaurant. I have Angela's restaurant.
Oh, I know they park at your restaurant,
Right.
walk across the street.
Well, I've been in there, and I don't go in there anymore because they do the same thing.
Yep.
They touch me, and they ask for money, and then that place actually where I went, they've done that before, but I don't do it.
You don't partake?
No, I don't.
Okay.
That's not what I'm there for.
Okay. What other establishments have you?
Well, I went to the one in Post Falls. They do the same thing.Ey're terrible. They do it like 2 or 3 times. It's like they're upset you don't, want to
Okay.
do that.
What? How much did your massage cost you?
$100. No, it's like I gave her 105 because she's incredible.
Okay.
She
What is the base rate?
the base rate is usually like 70.
Okay. So you give almost 100% tip?
No, I gave her $105. I gave her a $35 tip.
Okay. The last 2 people I stopped at there say the base rate's $60, so that's why I'm kind of trying to figure out.
Well,
And how the other part of this works is eventually, with everybody's names that are listed in those reports, that's all public information. It'd be really, really crappy if you're frequenting these places and then you're an owner of an establishment in town. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We've had people in very prestigious places within the community that are frequenting these places. That is terrible. And the other part of this is every one of these places, most of these girls are human trafficked. As soon as they get into a place, they take their passports, they take their ID, and they don't let them contact their family. They don't let them leave. They reside in these places. And by you frequenting these places, you're helping facilitate the human and sex trafficking. If a place has the windows covered up, that is not a normal massage facility. Not like, let's say, Z Spa or one of these other places.
Yeah.
So I find it very interesting how you've gone to all these other places, all these other Asian massage places, even the one across the street from your restaurant. In those,
Yeah, but I don't go to them anymore.
I understand that, but they're the same places. Windows are covered up. They're Asian massage places. Did they take your name when you walked in? Nope. So they're not keeping books. Did they give you a receipt when you left? Nope. They're not keeping track of anything. And so on top of it, they're money laundering. And you as a proprietor, a business owner in town, I mean, that's got to seem fishy, right?
Yeah, I told you why I go.
Okay.
I mean, I have unbearable pain.
I get that, but there's physicians for that, not.
I go to
places
my
that are-
regular massage therapist. I go to a chiropractor 2 or 3 times a week.
And you go to a regular massage therapist 2 or 3
I
times
do.
a week?
I go either there or I go sometimes I just have to go.
Okay.
It's bad. My wife knows how bad it is. I don't like to go to those places. I've been to that place probably 3 or 4 times, and they have different people there, and they have not once offered me sex.
Okay.
Not once.
Not.
Okay. That's quite a lot to cover. We'll rewind it just a little bit here when we'll play the remaining several minutes. But this was body cam footage that I obtained legally through a public records request to the Coeur d'Alene Police Department. I actually was given a tip over a month ago about this potentially being an issue. And I sat on this and the police report for weeks. In fact, I really was not going to do anything with it other than keep it for general knowledge because I didn't see a reason for it. But again, because Jeff Tyler and his complete belief, his adamant belief that the KCRCC is a gatekeeper between good and evil, between conservatism and the abyss. And I've experienced just the opposite as probably one of the most, if not the most conservative candidate that would have run through there. I decided that I wanted to make an example of this situation because Angelo was a KCRCC recommended candidate. He was in their mailer. He was in their voter guide for sewer district. And when we pressed further to say, is this true? Is the KCRCC still going to endorse him after knowing this? Our sources told us that, yes, in fact, it was discussed and there was a plea that, it wasn't the way it was reported. in their police report. And they continued. My understanding, again, this is what I've been told, doubled down and said, no, we're standing behind our guy. And the question is, why? I didn't make any of this up. You have a guy, if you heard the same thing that I heard, he says that, yeah, he goes into these places, several of them, several times they have offered to touch the no-no zones. And yet, despite going to the same type of massage parlors, Asian massage parlors that all have blocked windows, what he is telling us in his own words, by the way, he is voluntarily saying this. I'm not going to talk about the legality of the Coeur d'Alene police officer and his contact. That's not why I'm here. That's for other people to determine. But I want you to hear, again, why it's dangerous for the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee to be endorsing anybody, to put their stamp of approval on somebody. Because it ties you to people when they turn out to have bad behavior. And then all the virtue signaling that you're doing, you get slapped in the face because then you look like complete morons for, here you have this guy that's claiming that he has these high moral values and then railing against those that are on the opposite end of the culture that don't adhere to biblical principles. But my back is it's just, I started to tell people and then, but I go there and I don't want to, and I tell them no, but I keep going back. Mm-hmm. My pain is just so bad. And by the way, I'm paying $105. I mean, heck, I get medical massages that I pay out of pocket from actual real providers. When I say real providers, let me clarify, from medical licensed professionals.
Yes, big difference.
And they don't cut any slack. And cash is, $70 to $90 usually for an hour. So you're going to, let's go ahead and listen to the rest of what Angelo has to say himself, and then we will come back and continue it. You'll have to turn it back on for me, maybe drag it. We're going to drag it back just a couple seconds here.
Three or four times, and they have different people there, and they have not once offered me sex.
Okay.
Not once.
Not sex, but what about a sex act?
No.
Okay.
I would never. That's sick.
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't mean that you have to agree to it, but the offering
but
of it.
Either one. Especially sex is sick. But what they usually do is they touch your penis and they.
At the other establishments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every single one. They do it 2 or 3 times, and they almost get upset that you're not.
I've heard that.
And it's like.
The 2 gals that were in here.
Okay, I got to stop this. Okay, the statements are no sex, but they touch genitals. Is that what you heard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Touch it, and he's like, no. Let me ask you a question. This is an on-spot survey. If I were at a massage and the massage professional put their hands on my, southern region,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't immediately get up and run out of there and never go back, and you found out about it, what would you do to me?
What would I do? I mean, that's some serious. It's a serious violation of commitment that you have to your significant other, family member. Because you're knowing what's at bare minimum, what's going on, what the attempt was. And then at that point you are choosing to go back into that environment come what may.
As a married man, if I found out somebody was touching you in an area that only I should be able to touch you, I would go ballistic.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind, folks, as we're listening to some of this.
Okay. Ready to bring that back.
2 of them, right? How old do you think they are?
Well,
if you had to guess.
There was a young gal in there. She's the receptionist. She doesn't give massages. She looks really young. She looks like she's like 14 or something.
She looks 14.
Then the other
Okay.
one's probably, 20-ish, 20s, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not doing it for that part. I know it sounds funny, but fishy, but I'm not.
Okay. And
I say no even when I go into a
Okay.
place, and then they literally ask me 2 or 3 times.
Right. And so here's the thing: is a lot of people, some people that go in there, flat tell them when they start manipulating or giving hand gestures of acts that they are willing to offer, they say no, which is great. Some people take them up on that, and those are the people that are telling us, hey, these establishments are doing this, conscious, wife finds out, whatever the case may be. And so that's why we're sitting down in these locations to try to find out more, is make sure that we don't have a 14-year-old. You come in this one time and maybe they flop. One is giving the massage, the 14-year-old is giving a massage and performing sex acts because, my God, that's even worse. You have a little girl doing this stuff, and that's exactly what these establishments do. There's one person or 2 people in town that are controlling all these people, and as soon as, people get bored with that, then they ship them all to Seattle, or they ship them to New York, or down to California, and they get a whole new herd of these girls in here, and they plop them all over the place. Again, still stealing their passports, stealing their IDs, and they completely control them. Don't let them talk to their families back in China, because when they came over, they expected, they're in the promised land of the U.S. and everything is nice. But no, they are forced to live in these establishments and perform sex acts on people, and they get paid that much. And if they don't do it, then there's consequences back home in China. So
I know, I reported it. I had sat down and talked to the police and everything at my restaurant. I told them what was going on.
Do you have signs in your parking lot about who is allowed to be in your parking lot? Because I was down there a week and a half ago, and I had caught 2 people park in your restaurant and walk across the street.
Because it could have been a Sunday or a Monday, and we're not.
No, it was a Saturday. It was your parking lot was darn near full.
That's why we put signs there, because people park in there all the time, and they walk over to the other businesses, the bars or the
I got you.
restaurants, or even with the sign, they see it, and then they just walk over anyhow.
Okay. Do you have your ID on you real quick? Do you
Yeah.
have insurance on your pickup?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Of course, I have to.
Okay, fair enough.
K32, Central Status 1.
Code 4.
Copy, code 4.
There's that.
Thank you, sir.
There's my license.
Thank you.
They're redacting for
Central K32 Idaho DQ.
personal
Still live across
information
the
right
river
now.
there on Drift.
So they're just basically redacting so we don't see any of Angela's personal information.
Yeah, we're still playing it in its entirety, but it was redacted by law enforcement.
Yes.
I'll give that back to you, sir.
5006. Can I get a cover code 2, please?
5005.
So he was clear in-house and he returned clear out of Idaho.
Copy. Code 4. Let's give that to you.
Okay.
Do you have any questions regarding the conversation we
One.
had? Or the traffic violation that I observed?
No.
Okay. I would stay away from those places.
Yeah,
I
well,
really
obviously, I mean, I hate to have to go there. It sucks, man. And obviously, yeah, I've got to stay away from there.
I know the other places are probably quite a bit more expensive to go to. However,
No, I give my massage therapist $100 when I'm done.
well, okay, sometimes maybe you have to get insurance. Something involved, I don't know if you're going to a massage therapist or your chiropractor or whomever else to try to help out with the costs. Possibly. I don't know. I've never been to a chiropractor. Those are the places that are on the up and up. They have city business licenses. They have everybody screened. Everybody in there that is a masseuse or a masseur can actually perform the services. And they're not offering additional acts. I would stay with those.
I know. I
Just a
go to
recommendation.
confession too, and I have to confess this because it's a sin. You know what I mean? Because
Which part?
well, just going into a place like that, it's not a legit place. You know what I mean? And
But the one you're going to is legit, though, right?
well, it's still it's still like it's not. No, it's not legit.
5007,
I
Central
mean-
Status.
Nothing happened.
And I get that you're not partaking in it. What I'm mainly looking for
but
is
it's
the
still
offer.
not legit. It's like she's never offered me anything.
Okay.
But usually they do, and
But not at this place.
no,
Okay.
no,
Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
no.
Okay. I appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Can play it all the way. Well, I was going to say, because for those that will say we edit,
That was the end. That's what we got. Yeah.
there is so much there. We could spend a lot of time dissecting it. We're not going to. But it was important because the allegations have been, since I posted certain sections, that I didn't put the whole thing in context, that somehow my statements were sensationalized. We're going to talk about a couple that were adamant defenders of Angelo. I'll say it again. At no time have I said that Angelo has committed any crimes. But I think that what we have heard by his own mouth, remember, he gave voluntary statements. He has a right to not incriminate himself. But what I heard was ramblings of somebody that kind of wanted to confess, again, not an expert, just personal opinions. But we heard several things that I want you guys to remember in this interaction. Admitted several times to them offering it up at all of the various locations that he was discussing. We're going to talk about some of those locations coming up real quick here. The police officer reiterated that most likely the women working in these massage parlors come from Asia, China, that once they're here, because they think they're coming to the promised land, and they're going to be able to work and establish their footprint here for themselves and their families, they are immediately brought into slavery. Their passports and all their important information is taken away, and they are forced to work in these massage parlors. In fact, Bob Norris famously said about a year before I ran for sheriff, when somebody asked him about human trafficking, and he said, no, human trafficking doesn't really take place here, but there could be some people working in some of the massage parlors in Kootenai County that are being forced to work against their will. You heard Angelo say that there was somebody that he believed as young as 14 who was working there. You hear him make these statements that they offer things over and over, but he does not partake, but yet he indicates from his own words that he continually goes back again and again to numerous ones, but it's okay because he's reported it.
Yeah.
So if you report it,
yeah,
whatever it means.
Not sure there's a record of it.
Well, I've put in a records request with the Coeur d'Alene police to see if there truly is any record of Angelo officially contacting Coeur d'Alene police. As of the time of this broadcast, I've not yet received a response, but once I do, I'll be
personal opinion. If I had found evidence of an establishment like that and I reported it to authorities, I personally would not be re-entering the doors of any establishment or one that had similar.
Well, what about if you leave that one, but you go up the street, because these ones are around the corner, right?
Yeah.
One is next to Safeway on 4th. The other one is around the corner by Angelo's restaurant. It's not on Boise. It's the one that's, I think, south, the next road, right across from Angelo's restaurant. And you go in there and they're doing the same thing. And they're taking cash.
Yes.
They're not putting you in the books.
Well, and that's why, too, listening to that officer's line of questioning was so important, because he was also calling out, if you're merely going from an ethics of business standpoint, are they signing you in? Do they have a record that you've been here?
Are they keeping medical records?
Are you getting a receipt? Yeah. Paying in cash, no receipt, not signing you in, no
AK,
records.
Not a legitimate business.
Yes.
This is what they're, and we're going to talk again about this in more detail.
Come back to that.
So we're listening to him in his own words. You guys have heard this firsthand. So when we talk about the tweets that I made, that Angelo is threatening that I'm somehow defaming him by implying that he committed certain crimes, I guess, or whatever, immoral acts. Couple last things. He does confess at the end. Well, I'm going to have to go to confession after this. Well, why? Well, just because I shouldn't be in a place like this.
It's his own words.
Not mine.
Those are his
words. Not
words.
the officers, but his own. Again, the reason that this was done is a challenge, whether Jeff Tyler knew it or not, but to once again show why it is a very, very bad idea for the KCRCC to suppose that they're the damn gatekeepers of the Republican cause in Cooney County. Again, who are you guys to determine who is and who is not conservative? I mean, hell, I'll go on the record and say, if you pull up Bob Norris's answers to your survey and compare it to mine, hands down, Bob Norris doesn't know a damn thing about being a Republican. Your surveys are crap. If the result is you're going to continue to put buffoons in because they're part of your clan. You are destroying this. Jeff, with all due respect, you are destroying any conservative chances that we have going into the future, you along with your committee, and especially when you make statements like, you know what, in essence, read between the lines, I really shouldn't have actually endorsed you. I should have stayed solidified with the other PCs. Even though you and I both know what your opinion was on Bob Norris and why he shouldn't be there and how he backstabbed all of you with the FOP, with Brent glowing above, watching admirably, blaming it on the FOP when Bob admitted to allowing county resources, the STAR, to be used in a political action committee flyer that the FOP put out, where Bob was named as one of their endorsed candidates. You guys lost, what, 30 seats to what you call the dirty 30? Now, I've met many of the North Idaho Republicans. And I think they're good, reasonable people. Don't know all of them. I don't know all of the original clan. There's some real fruitcakes in the KCRCC prior to the North Idaho Republicans getting in there that are like way off base. But so again, this was done because I wanted to prove a point. So we're going to get into the tweets that I made that have made everybody upset. Have you guys read them along with us to see whether or not you agree or disagree that there is anything untruthful said about Angelo. So first thread, I played a video, very short cut of what Angelo was saying about going into these establishments. If you want to see this thread, it's still up.
I was going to say, this is over on x.com. If you haven't already, you're going to want to follow Dan's account. That's at the Idaho Sheriff. There's a lot of important local political chatter happening on that platform, and it's worth taking the minute to go over there and subscribe at the Idaho Sheriff, x.com.
We are going to go over tonight. This is going to be a longer session. We're not going to get everything that I wanted. We're going to glance over it because there's a certain subject that we're going to come back and give a lot more attention to because he's begging for attention. But here I said in the first of this thread posted, I believe it was Saturday, as a Republican Central Committee at KCRCC has no business recommending any candidate for office in a primary. It should be up to the voters to decide. Here is a current recommended candidate, Angelo Brunson, interacting with the Coeur d'Alene police. And then I went ahead and I played that clip. Second, after this interaction was made public, it appears that the KCRCC continues to recommend his candidacy. As of 5/17 at 5:50 p.m., which is the time I timestamped it that I posted this, he can still be found on their online voter guide. Gave the link and a screenshot. See that little logo there, Cooney County GOP recommended? Mm-hmm. So they still had that up as of 5/17. In fact, they still had it up yesterday.
Okay.
Yesterday was the day of voting. Third, the KCRCC claims to have a vetting process to identify the most conservative candidates. Their process is proving to be a complete failure at best. This candidate lacks discernment, and at worst, it is the antithesis of conservative values. Let me ask you, have you guys seen anything defamatory yet? Number 4, Coeur d'Alene revokes 5 business licenses over alleged illegal sexual activity. And I linked to the article, which this investigation where Angelo was being questioned tied into a larger investigation that Coeur d'Alene conducted. The Coeur d'Alene Press discussed that. We're going to go to the next slide here pretty quick, and we'll eventually get to that article. Some guy named Louis, the nationalist, says, is there a longer version of the clip? You should know better than to post what can likely be an out-of-context clip saying it is a fact. You should show the full police interaction for complete transparency. Well, Louis, I understand that a lot of knuckleheads and disingenuous and untruthful people will do that. I would argue and say to date, I have not participated in that because I don't like it. And I gave exactly what needed to be heard for the attention span at the moment. But I said I'm more than happy to share this again, which was another tweet that I made with another video. Said, here is more video. I made this the next day. Here is more video on current recommended KCRCC candidate Angelo Brunson's interaction with Coeur d'Alene police in 2024 regarding the investigation of massage parlors in Coeur d'Alene. My sources tell me that the KCRCC has refused to distance itself from Angelo. We're going to go down to the headline. Coeur d'Alene revokes 5 business licenses over alleged illegal sexual activity. This was written on February 19, 2025. A couple highlights. The city of Coeur d'Alene has revoked the business licenses of 5 massage facilities, citing allegations of illegal sexual activity, though no criminal charges have been filed. Again, that includes Angelo. No criminal charges have been filed that I'm aware of. The Coeur d'Alene Police Department announced Wednesday afternoon that the business licenses of Oriental Massage Spa, Red Sea Massage, Oriental Body Works, Asian Massage, and Chinese Massage were revoked earlier in the day. Police said detectives began investigating the facilities after receiving reports of unwanted sexual touching. Investigators are concerned that some employees of the massage business may be victims of sex trafficking, according to police. Due to the nature of these crimes, prosecution in these cases is challenging and criminal charges were declined by local prosecutors, police said in a news release. However, the nature and volume of the allegations was compelling enough for the city to revoke the business licenses at these establishments. Conservatives, you guys are some of the dumbest, most hypocritical people that I know. For well over a year on the campaign trail and prior to that and continuing to this day, I truly believe that human trafficking takes place. I saw it taking place when I was a police officer over in Spokane County for 12 years. It's 20 miles west of where we currently are. Human trafficking doesn't know borders. I've said it over and over again that if we cannot protect the most innocent among us, who are we as Americans? I got roasted a lot. We're going to show some of these for daring to put this out. Instead of focusing on the man who said what he said and the subject matter, and him telling on himself, I have to go to confession because I shouldn't have been there. You doofuses with the KCRCC, because you're so damn arrogant, your egos is so big, instead of publicly coming out and doing the right thing, which you guys cannot do between the town hall and recent events like this is how out of touch you are. And you wonder, why are you losing? You're losing because you guys have lost focus of the mission. And you will sit there and you will attack somebody for bringing up public records that I obtained legally to show somebody in their own words what they're doing. I didn't make this up. But more importantly, who cares about my feelings? That's an everyday occurrence. You know what chaps my hide worse than all of that? Where is the empathy for the victims? Where the hell is the KCRCC? Do your damn job and start looking into these allegations when you had time. I was able to do it, so you sure as hell can. Find out for yourself. Do an investigation. Sometimes you say, you know what? You're involved in something that we can't confirm whether it was legal or not legal, but you are lacking in morals. You're lacking in discernment. You can no longer be associated with us. But you'll sit there and you'll bitch and whine, KCRCC, and all you sycophants that go to every single committee and meeting and association, and you'll rage about Pride in the Park. You'll rage about drag shows. And again, I'm not for any of that. We need to leave our damn sexuality at home. I'm not happy with the proclamation to make Coeur d'Alene gay. I think that's absurd. We're Americans. We don't need special observation or special, what would you even call it?
Well, it's a
recognition.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing to protect the most vulnerable, you hypocrites, you brood of vipers? You want to throw scripture at me, Angelo's son? I'll hit you back with even more scripture about woe to those that are caught participating in things that they shouldn't be participating in. And this wasn't even a high level, as if it matters, this wasn't even a high level, high stakes office. It's for sewer district, for crying out loud.
Kind of apropos.
Why in the hell would you not just say, yeah, you're out of here. 86 him.
Yeah.
Did I say 86?
What does it mean? Just kidding.
That's where I'm completely appalled. Now, we're going to talk about those that have come on hot and heavy to defend Angelo. We're going to ask the question why that is. And we're going to dig a little deeper into this person's background. I'm encouraging all of you to do the same because this person is really close to Brent Reagan from what I'm told.
Yeah, when Dan talks about how he gets pushback for sharing public information and to see how this group, KCRCC groups and those who align with that organization come in to defend this. And while Dan is sharing or exposing public information, it's kind of a how dare you response. Again, rather, where's your empathy for the victims in this case? Well, Dan's now going to provide examples of exactly what we mean. Yeah. We don't just mean this in generalities.
Yeah. You can go to the Twitter feed and look at yourself, but
I want to remind people too, we've had a lot of you log on since the top of the hour. Typically we are a 1 hour program, 7 to 8. Tonight we are going longer because we want to get all of this in as it's cohesive with this specific story. So for those of you still watching live right now, we've got some good time left. Go ahead and share the program to your page or profile.
So part of the online pushback right off the bat, we're gonna talk about what they said. It's over the top. Let's move to slide number 12. Person at the top of this tweet is Dave Riley, aka the Idaho Tribune, aka the guy that was part of the Charlottesville Tiki Torch March, Unite the Right. Ran as a Democrat, undercover, got caught, was part of the Pizzagate where he lied and told homeless people that there was free dinner at his political opponent. He was for Dorothy Moon, who's now the chairman of the state GOP, and Tom Luna was running against her at that time at the state convention.
And that is what these people do, is they'll come in and do these hoaxes on their political opponents. Even if you have two conservatives running against each other, it's their candidate at all cost. It has nothing to do with conservatism or who's the best candidate for the job. And the touting, can't we all just run on our own ideas? Mm-hmm. You know, I dream of a land where we can, but that's what the behavior these guys are engaged in. Pizzagate, telling political opponents his town hall event, and he's pushing, making flyers in cahoots with somebody else, making flyers
with Aaron Barnard from the Kootenai Spectator,
and they outed each other because eventually these guys start fighting amongst themselves.
That's because Dave hates, from everything that I can tell, he hates Jews.
So, and I just wanted to clarify,
personal observation.
So for their political opponent, they publicized that there was free pizza for the homeless.
At a Tom Luna event. And so people showed up. And then Tom Luna and his staff handled that fabulously, as it turns out. But that, like a real conservative?
Nothing is, as a real conservative would do, but nothing is beneath these people. And then they want to come on and virtue signal because how dare you share public information? Dave
Riley gets mad and he tweets out, not, hey, I can't believe this, not how are the victims, whatever. His response is, cover your ears if you are sensitive. You're a real piece of shit for this. And my response was, coming from you, that's a compliment. A couple other people chimed in. Riley comes back and he says, here we're talking about Angelo and why he shouldn't be part of the KCRCC. Not because he's a citizen, nothing more than saying, I started this. This person should not be recommended right now by the KCRCC.
Yeah, and fallacies
that's all it was.
in the vetting process, and why is KCRCC recommending candidates in the first place? That's really the discussion you're trying to have.
So Riley wants to change the subject. Doesn't want to address anything. He wants to have everybody start arguing something else, like a professional change agent. Although, let me just say, I've heard him on his YouTube channel that he co-hosts with several others.
Right.
The Backlash, which you guys should go and see for yourself. It's quite comical. He tries to swear all the time. You're going to see, and if you go to my Twitter, many times when he's done with his whatever thing he thinks is an insult, he finishes it with the F word or something, right?
No.
Look, I had an uncle that was the worst when it came to swearing. As hard as he tried, anytime a swear word came out of his mouth, it was completely laughable. You just didn't believe him. Riley, let me encourage you. Your continual use of the F word over and over again, you don't know how to execute it.
The F word wears him. He doesn't wear the F word. It's just, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. All right. So he wants us to change that subject. And he says, laugh my ass off, eat shit.
Yeah.
I respond, Agent Tiki, try to stay focused on the topic at hand. Is he, Ness, a KCRCC recommended candidate for the May 20 election? Now, if Ness was part of this, I'd come down hard on his ass too. I got no tolerance for it. But that's not who we're talking about right now.
And Ness was brought into the conversation by Riley,
To
which
try to
was
detract.
never what was being
You
talked
guys
about.
are only talking about our guys. What about these guys? And then he starts saying that I'm friends with Ozzy Knezovich. Riley, this is how stupid you are. If you knew the truth, you would know that I'm in Ozzy's black book. Ozzy hated my guts. So, I mean, you can say what you want, but
How dare he?
those in the know, no. He goes on. Let's go to page 13. So then all of a sudden he throws this out. Well, I guess we've got a Hamas Pope too, eh? Why do you support genocide, porn in the libraries, and foul, degenerate people? Again, deflect.
Yeah.
Why is he defending and trying to draw the attention off of Angelo so much? Is it possibly because they're both Catholic? Is it one of those things where they're defending? Look, I got family that's Catholic. I got family that's Mormon. Family that's evangelical. I'm not, I'm not making fun of anybody's religion, but Dave, why are you pushing so hard for Angelo? Why? Is it because you guys go to the same church? I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Are you friends? Why the support? And by the way, what does Dave Riley usually say when he's pontificating about human trafficking? Well, let's see what he says in his own words. These are just ones that I pulled off of a quick search on his feed. Ketchum PD confirming to me last year that there is a drastic uptick in human and sex trafficking during the Sun Valley Conference. They know about it and tolerate it. These billionaires are criminals and should be arrested on sight. Riley again says in another tweet, okay, pictures of something penetrating another's something is speech. I think it's filthy. So does Jesus. And porn-assisted solitary sexual activity exploits women, perpetuates human trafficking, and above all, is a sin. Right, Agent Tiki? You're right. Again, he says, buying a child isn't parenthood, it's human trafficking. As long as the borders are open and he can continue human trafficking through Catholic charities to make up for the declined mass attendance, he really doesn't care, not to mention the dollar. So we have plenty of examples of where, he goes on, we should also investigate Opus Dei for labor and human trafficking. So on the surface, he likes to run his mouth quite a bit passionately about what he thinks should happen towards those participating to any degree of human trafficking. So Agent Tiki, once again, the audience wants to know, rather than condemning What, by the way, you had the same video that everybody else that saw it. You heard his own words. You didn't at any time go, yeah, that doesn't sound good. Hey, Wilson, do you have the full version so I can listen to everything to make certain that you are completely being accurate with what you are showing? But no, you don't. You just immediately go into attack mode. And that's very, very curious to me because, Agent Tiki, and I call him Agent Tiki because, well, we're going to talk about that. Agent Tiki, because from what I understand, around 2017, he was a radio personality and a director of new media for radio at a radio station in Pennsylvania, WHLM. Sometime during this, he got involved in that Charlottesville incident, the one where they continually told Trump and lied about him over and over again, saying that he was for white supremacists. Mm-hmm. Basically, it was a march where you had a bunch of everything from neo-Nazis and Aryan nations to white nationalists and Christian nationalists and all the people that don't like anybody that isn't white American, which I don't believe in. I condemn that. My understanding is that he helped organize that, and instead of carrying torches like the old Ku Klux Klan, they decided they wanted to grab tiki torches. Well, once it came out that he was going as the pseudonym Davy Crockett on a local chat and was kind of spearheading this or helping to coordinate it to some degree, the radio station that his dad operated, he was forced to resign. And at some point after that, he finds himself in Kootenai County. So he gets here, and the dude, we're going to actually do a special broadcast just on Agent Tiki coming up. There's so much that we just can't do tonight. Right. But I want you guys to go ahead and search Dave Riley, Reilly, to see all the things that he's been involved with, controversial, since 2017. And it reminds me, which camera am I supposed to be looking at, by the way? Because I'm looking at my notes.
I've got a Riley slide up there showing some of what he's involved in. I'm back at the wide shot here.
So going into this discussion, I want to know, he's been involved with so many different things. He's currently doing this. Look, there's some things that they say on this broadcast that I agree with, but the vast majority of what they say in their content, I disagree with. The backlash, the blonde, forget what her name is, Rebecca Hargrave. When you watch the way they refer to people and what they say, it's utterly disgusting and they perfectly have the right. Dave Riley has the right to be a complete jackass and to say what he wants to say. Gold star, Dave. Good on you for practicing your First Amendment and your beliefs. But he's a moron. And he was a moron from the first moment I met him on the campaign trail. Didn't know who he was. I thought he was a Hispanic dude the first time I saw him. Because I literally thought he was Hispanic. And then
I think he's Puerto Rican. I think he's Puerto Rican.
Oh, okay. And then I see him going after, making all these comments against anybody that isn't white. And again, some of the stuff that he says about demeaning white men today is true. But the majority of what he's saying about hating everybody else and the Jews are somehow ruling the world and all the absurdity to me is like over the top.
And before we get too far past, I just want to cut in and say that Dave Riley is one of many who's been what seems to be a political operative in some other area in the country, whether it be East Coast, California.
Well, we don't know California, do we? Maybe
I'm saying others. He's one of others who have come and have a history in political activism and have been one cause activists that end up in Kootenai County and are politically active in all sorts of causes, almost as though they're consulting with KCRCC and what's going on there and local politics. They become very inbred.
Dave was hired by the Idaho Freedom Foundation, where Brent is the chairman. And Dave Riley was on staff until there was such public outcry that I think he kind of quietly went away. But I got to tell you, this just is kind of off the wall. He gives me vibes, and I call him Agent Tiki because it gives me vibes that he works for the feds as an informant, like a confidential human source. I don't know. It's just something for people to think about. I mean, I don't know anybody else that can be involved with as many scandals and continually get to go to the table of the so-called conservatives where, we know that in Idaho for years, there have been a lot of federal agents undercover that have gone into every kind of conservative group and are watching things. And Riley seems to kind of be in the middle of a lot of that.
Yeah.
He plays the right and the left against each other quite a
as
bit.
an agitator, almost like he's being put up to things to create dissonance.
Yeah.
That's one of my theories.
Yeah, could be.
We'll find out later.
So
I'm right.
we're going to close this up tonight by talking about human trafficking one last time. Your current sheriff continually denies that human trafficking takes place here in Kootenai County. We're going to play a couple videos of him in his own words, and then we're going to go back to something that I said on the campaign trail, and we're going to wrap up the conversation for this episode.
With sex trafficking here in Kootenai County?
Well, you tell me. You can arrest somebody for sex trafficking. Have you seen it?
I'm asking you.
Well, I'm asking you.
It's your job, not his.
Am I answering him or answering you?
Okay, so he said, when asked, is there sex trafficking? Well, is there? Well, you can make an arrest. So it's deflecting. We're going to go to his more recent. This happened a couple months ago on the, what is the name of that podcast?
The North
Idaho Experience?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Is
find it on YouTube.
human trafficking occurring in Kootenai County? No. Are there people that live in different parts of this country or this world that are soliciting our teenagers to get naked pictures, sextortion events? That's happening daily, and it's probably happened since we've started this show. That is absolutely. And does that situation put that teenager at risk for being a victim of a crime and human trafficking in the future? You're damn straight it
Absolutely.
does. Yeah. So we need to bring that to a community conversation also.
So in that clip, you had a special deputy. He really is a special Kootenai County Sheriff's deputy and county commissioner, Bruce Matari, along with Dave and Seth, who are former California law enforcement. And they're just sitting there listening to Nora shaking their head. No human trafficking, but
Yeah.
this thing here is a gateway.
Well, we've seen in the last couple of years as that the question about human trafficking has come up. Norris has obviously and very evidently been coached. Don't just give a closed-ended answer to that question. No, human trafficking is happening in Kootenai County. He's learned to go on and change, like continue on with the answer and say, but here's where the problem is. And he talks about something that it undeniably is happening with predators on the internet and how your children are at risk for that. It's very calculated in his response.
Mm-hmm. And we know that, we're going to play what I had to say a year ago, which was consistent throughout the entire campaign. Hi, folks. Dan Wilson here. Want to tell you that I've been having a great time at the county fair. Thanks for everybody who's come up to see me, who've taken pictures and expressed their desire for liberty without compromise. Now, something that has been frequently coming up in conversations with the people that have been coming to my booth is that on human trafficking. And I want to remind everyone that Bob Norris said last fall in a town hall that he sees no indicators of any kind of human trafficking taking place, and that's simply not true. People have been coming up and telling their stories, and I've been talking to professionals all over. We do have a plan, and when Dan Wilson is sheriff of Kootenai County, we will be hitting it very, very hard. Everybody have a great day. Human trafficking is very real, and my hat's off to Chief White for going after it right now. So, at the conclusion, for those of you who have stayed with us this entire time, at the beginning, we disclosed that prior to broadcasting tonight, I received an email from Angelo Brunson, the subject of this video that we played, where he claims that I somehow defamed him and he was giving me the opportunity to clean up my act. Your recent post on X implied that I had committed a crime. This is untrue and a defamation against me, which has caused emotional and documented financial harm. I've been advised that I must give you the opportunity to retract your statements and apologize via the media, which these lies were distributed. And I have to say, Angela, I understand the position you're in and how embarrassing it must be. I've not said you've committed any crimes. I've used your own words, literally. I've asked why the KCRCC, knowing what you said in your own words, would take a man who, in my belief, this is my belief, and I'm able to have my own belief, lacks discernment at best. What is wrong with the KCRCC? What is wrong with Dave Riley? Where's the justice for those that are being sold into slavery in our own very own community? The same community where we want to, we're more concerned about making certain we keep the conservative majority, right, Jeff? How about we all band together to start going after these evildoers in our own community? And no quarter for any of them. All of you that were jumping up and down, we get to finally use the firing squad on anybody that harms a child. Well, if you really believe that, then get together and start demanding accountability in your own county. KCRCC and those that are on the board, I've said this, and I will continue to say it. You have lost your way. The Republic will be saved not because of an organization, not because you have some guy that has a lot of money that is kind of the figurehead, and he's kind of witty and gray in the mustache. The power lies in the individual. All men are created equal under God. Everybody has the rights to life, liberty, and property. You can make a difference. I set out a year and a half ago to make a difference, and I'm not stopping. This is why these people cannot stand that I'm still around, because I'm controlled by nobody. It's me, my own conscience, the code that I've lived by. While not perfect, a continual striving for the truth, because that's what my dad taught to me when I was a 4-year-old, because of my faith in Jesus Christ. And I will continue to go after every last one of you evildoers. And by the way, Casey and Ed, you guys keep running your mouths. And Ed, I got my own bones to pick with you. Don't think just because we're on friendly terms that I don't have my own bones. You, when I first came out on Twitter, really posting at the beginning of this year, you told me several times to go away, that I lost by a landslide and just needed to go. Now, maybe you've seen a different side. Casey, you and I have done things together. You know who I am. But I'm sick and tired of both of your feuds. Like men, come out and do a public forum. Let's see how much you guys really know, how much, when you guys run your mouths publicly, how much you really have to offer besides name calling. And you're a communist, and you're a fascist, and you're a dope. And I mean, it's ridiculous behavior, Ed. Casey, it's ridiculous. And Casey, quit trying to play me, bro. Don't send me text messages. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Be accountable. You once stood for exposing the truth. Don't soil it by the people that you're hanging around with. If you don't like it and you don't want to be my friend anymore, I can't control that. But every last one of you out there, if you're with me, stand with me for liberty without compromise, to continue the cause for truth. Not controlled by a party, not controlled by any faction, but controlled by what the truth is. I'm about ready to go smoke a cigar.
I think you had one founder quote that you wanted to
let's
share.
play that.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
Let's go look at Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry was extremely wise, and he had this to say: the eternal difference between right and wrong does not fluctuate. It is immutable. Quit fighting, you guys. Start standing for the truth, and let's make an actual difference in our community right here at the ground level. God bless y'all.
Continue on with those comments. We've got a little bit of music as we roll out tonight, so we can keep those going on the screen, and you can share your thoughts after having had a chance to absorb some of this. We know that it was a lot. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast. Visit our website at libertywithoutcompromise.com. There you can watch past episodes. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for those notifications when we go live, and all of the live stream archives are there. When you want to go back and listen to anything we've said, verify it, check, stay informed. For those of you listening on our podcast, you can listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. Remember, also there on the website, you can enter for a chance to win this hat. We're doing that giveaway on July 2nd, the Wednesday, July 2nd episode. So get your entry in libertywithoutcompromise.com, and the link for 15% off midday squares. They're delicious, and you can help support the program by purchasing those online. Click that link, you get 15% off. Dan and I thank you so much for hanging in there with us and listening when these are not often easy topics. They're ones we really want to be able to reject. So it takes a lot of emotional fortitude to take it in.
I will never run, no matter what the threat is. I will stand from the truth wherever I'm at. Now stand with me. Be strong and of good courage. See you guys all next time.